Hello and welcome to Girls for Greatness. I am your host, Delia Perry, and I am on a mission to help you rock a life empowered by your own greatness. This show features the incredible stories of women who have overcome their own struggles in order to find triumphant success. It is my hope that their stories will inspire and motivate you to do whatever it takes to live the life you really and truly were meant to live. Hello, my friends. It is so wonderful to be here coming at you with another episode, the final episode of Season 5 of the Girls for Greatness podcast. Yes, this is episode number 181, and you are listening to an episode with yours truly, a solo cast to close out another amazing season of this podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in today. I am always so honored to have each and every one of you here tuning in. As I said, this is the end of season 5 of the podcast. And, usually when I wrap up a season, I tend to talk about some of the highlights of that season, as well as share some thoughts on what I myself have learned. I'm actually going to kind of change things up today, though, and I wanted to talk to you all about something I have mentioned several times on here before, but it is also something that is meaningful in my life right now, and that is the power of creating pause in our lives. I know no one has to tell you or me that time is not slowing down anytime soon. We all lead busy lives, and we all have a lot on our plate. And we all can feel pulled in many different directions. Throw in the constant pull to check our text messages, email, and social media, and it can seem next to impossible to create any sort of pause in our life. Can any of you guys relate? I know I sure can. Well, about a month ago or so, I happened to be listening to an original Audible audio series by Mel Robbins entitled Reinvent Your Life, when I had a revelation about pause. I know. For those of you who know me well or who are regular listeners of this podcast, you know how much I love Mel Robbins, which, by the way, I will say her series Reinvent Your Life is definitely worth checking out, as is pretty much, in my opinion, any content Mel creates. Anyway, in that series, Mel likens our life to a road trip. When you are on a road trip and you know your destination, you plug it into your phone or your GPS and follow the directions. Or like when maybe you were a kid, I know when I was a kid, you look at an actual physical paper map and plot out your journey. Now, I know with GPS and Google Maps, we are maybe less likely to get lost, but just humor me here. Mel points out that when we do take a wrong turn or when we get off course, many times we just need to pull over to the side of the road and hit the pause button. We have to give ourselves time to figure out where we are at and how we are going to get to our destination. The same can be true in life, my friends. Sometimes we realize we have gone off course. Sometimes we realize we have gone down a path that we suddenly start to wonder if it is really the path we should be on. Sometimes we realize that something just doesn't feel right, or that something is not in alignment with who we are, or that something is not in alignment with where we are wanting to end up. I think it is in those moments that we need to heed Mel's advice and pull over in our life journey. I think it is in those moments that we need to hit the pause button and reevaluate where we are going and what our next step is. It's so easy, though, to just keep plowing ahead in life, isn't it? It's so easy to keep going down the same path, doing the same things, almost living on autopilot. However, just like the analogy with the road trip, if we carry on too long, avoiding all the signs that we are off course, we end up in a place that we don't even recognize, and oftentimes we struggle to even realize how we got there. My friends, it's in those times, the times when our intuition is speaking to us, that we have to be willing to slow down a bit. We have to acknowledge that we are maybe veering off course and that maybe the direction we are going in is not the right one. And I must tell you that Mel's words and her advice to pull over and to pause have hit home for me lately. One of the ways I suggested we sometimes go off course is when we ignore that something is not in alignment. When we feel as though something is just off, but we avoid addressing it. Well, that pretty much sums up what I have been dealing with in my own life as of late. To be completely honest, my friends, recently I have felt a bit out of alignment as it relates to my work with the podcast, my time that I devote to social media, and so on. I have felt as though I am being called to explore something else in my life that perhaps there is something more I was meant to do. Also, I have felt as though I'm going to be coming up on such a big year with my oldest daughter starting her senior year of high school, and I want to be as present to it all as I can be. The bottom line is my intuition has been speaking to me for some time now, and I have done a really good job of plowing ahead, avoiding the pause and the need to just breathe and give myself some time to listen in to what I know my heart is telling me to do. All of that to say, my friends, this is not only the end of season 5 of the Girls for Greatness podcast, but this is going to be my final episode of the Girls for Greatness podcast. As you can imagine, this decision has not come easily for me at all, but it is also a decision that I have total peace about. This podcast has been my passion project for 5 years, and I know I could easily continue with it, but I have some other things that I feel my heart is telling me I was meant to go after in my life, and I owe it to myself to honor that. You know, when you have that still small voice nudging you to make a change, well, that is another time to hit pause and reflect on that nudge. That is what I'm choosing to do in ending the podcast. I am choosing to create space for what might be next, to give myself space to reflect on what is next, and to give myself the space to be the present mom and wife I know I need and want to be. Does that mean that I will never podcast again? Honestly, I don't know. But what I do know is that I will continue to be a force for good, a force to empower others to truly believe in themselves and in the greatness they possess and were meant to share with the world. I also just want to say that with the pause of the podcast, I am taking the next few months off of social media as well. I know that is something that not everyone agrees with, and that's okay. Some would say I'm kind of putting myself and anything I want to do in the future at a detriment if I get off of social media. I am willing to take that risk, though, because I know how much media can personally monopolize my time, and I just don't want the distraction right now. My friends, I hope my transparency and my words inspire you to heed the power of pause in your own life. I hope that my words today empower you to address anything in your life that might feel out of alignment. I hope my words inspire you to tune in if you feel like you have been avoiding your own intuition or that still small voice you have been hearing. I have said this before on here, but you owe no one an explanation for what is right for you and your life. You have to live your life. No one can live it for you. I have to live my life, and I need to honor that life by living it in a way that is in alignment with my intuition and with who I am at my core. And sometimes honoring our life entails making decisions and choices that others may not agree with. And you know what? That is totally and completely okay. I know I have, and perhaps you have as well, given way too much time and energy to worrying about what other people might think if you choose to do something differently or make some changes that you know you need to make. I have definitely wrestled with this, but I had to also reach a point where I had to honestly answer the question, what do I want my life to look like? I realized that my answers to that question was what really mattered, and that those answers were going to be a sort of guide for the changes I was feeling I was led to make. I encourage everyone listening in to ask that question and then allow yourself the time, space, and yes, pause to actually hear the answers. So my friends, I want to wrap things up here by first and foremost thanking each and every one of you for listening in today. I actually want to thank anyone and everyone who has tuned into any of my podcasts, whether you are a regular listener or if this is your first time listening in. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It has truly been the most incredible honor and privilege to bring you this podcast over the last 5 years. I also want to be sure to thank each and every amazing guest I have ever had the privilege of interviewing. You all have inspired me in your own unique way. There is not a guest on this show that I did not learn something from. And as I have said before, I have always been learning right alongside all of you. And there are 2 other people I need to give a huge shout out to, and those are my amazing editors. When I started this podcast in 2018, I hired an amazing editor from Spain, Alejandro. He did an amazing job of helping to get this show going. His career eventually took him down a different path, but I have been so blessed to work with another truly amazing editor who resides in the UK. So Sam, thank you so much for all of your countless hours in making this podcast what it is. I could literally not do this show without your help. And finally, and one more time, let me leave you with some encouraging words, my friends. It has always been my greatest desire that this show would be a catalyst, a bridge, a nudge for anyone listening in to truly believe in their worthiness to go after the life they truly want to and were meant to live. I am such a firm believer in the power of each and every human on the planet to be a force for good and to leave their own unique mark on the world around them. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has been endowed with the seeds of greatness. And I believe we sometimes just need a reminder that they are there. Sometimes we just need to be reminded that we too have gifts and talents and greatness to share, and that what we have to share deserves and needs to be shared. My friends, I hope that if even in some small way, this podcast has served as that reminder. The hundreds of stories I have shared over these past 5 years, the amazing, inspiring life stories and wisdom that my guests have shared, I have always wanted it all to inspire us to believe in our own ability to make changes in our own life, and to then, in turn, share the greatness we have been blessed with. And so, as I have ended so many episodes of this podcast, know that you matter, my friends. Even if you are not feeling that you matter today, in this moment, you do. You matter, and so does your unique, powerful, beautiful greatness. And you are so deserving of doing whatever it takes to live the life you really and truly were meant to live.